I'm Dr. J. I'm here on behalf of Nature's Alkaline. And today I have a very special privilege to have join me the ingredient guru, MiraDessy, a colleague, a friend, someone that I have learned much from over time. And it's a pleasure to have you join us. So welcome, the ingredient guru.
Thank you, Dr. Jaffe. It's so nice to be here with you.
I'd like to jump in if that's okay. What would you like everyone to know about the ingredient guru and how to be healthier because of following your guidance?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So I think one of the biggest things I really want to encourage people to do is to learn to pay attention to food labels. So much of our health and well-being is from how we nourish our body. And if we're not paying attention to what's in what we eat, we can actually be consuming things that have no nutritional value and that actually can be challenging for our system to process.
Absolutely. Bob Lustig and others have pointed out that half of what most American children now consume is ultra-processed, packaged, unhealthy, hormone disrupting, contaminated with heavy metals. Even baby food is contaminated with heavy metals. You have to be a vigilant, diligent consumer and read labels. And if the label contains words that you don't understand, put it back.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan of bringing things back to the grocery store if you forget or don't have time to read the label while you're at the grocery store. I also want to share that I don't expect anybody to spend 5 hours in the grocery store reading all the labels. The goal is change one thing at a time. Maybe you're buying a certain kind of dairy product. And so we want to look for something that has no hormones, that doesn't have negative additives in it. Change that, get that under control, and then move on to the next thing. So we do it.
That's exactly. Beatrice Trum-Hunter taught me to shop around the perimeter of the market. That's where you might find real food. Prefer organic or biodynamic if possible. But if you have to go up and down the aisles, be very careful.
And I love that you talked about going the perimeter of the grocery store, because here's one of the things we have to keep in mind. Grocery stores have such thin profit margins that they pay a lot of attention to what consumers do. And they have noticed that we spend a lot more time in the perimeter. So now there's something happening called product creep. And that's where they take products that don't belong in that section and move them in there. The biggest example I give people right now, strawberries are fresh and in season. They smell fabulous. They're ripe and delicious. And right in the middle of the produce section is a little refrigerated case that has canned whipped cream and those squishy little sponges that they say are sponge cake. And it's there because they're trying to convince you that, oh, don't you want strawberry shortbread for dessert tonight? But those two products don't belong in the produce section and don't represent a good choice.
That's exactly right. An organic or biodynamic strawberry, preferably from the garden or from a CSA or wherever you can obtain it, is a delightful seasonal fruit.
Yes.
But don't be seduced by convenience and don't be confused by what you call it, product creep. I think that's a good name because that's exactly what's happening. I see that especially in Whole Foods, but even in our local organic markets. And as you said correctly in the beginning, we have to be diligent and vigilant. We have to make small changes that make a big difference in the quality of our life, because 92% of our lifetime health is due to habits of daily living, what we call epigenetics technically. But epigenetics means lifestyle. You can only blame mom and dad for 8%. So I want us to know how to be wise, intelligent consumers of whole foods in a wide variety of ways. And I do simplify part of this issue by saying no sugar and no edible oils. Trust me, even EVO, even grapeseed oil, has many problems when you separate the oil or the fat from the seed or the nut. So if you went edible oil free and you went sugar free, you would be on your way to being whole food rich.
And I think one of the other myths that we've been sold about food is food producers say that they're making things convenient. Oh, this is so much easier because it saves you time in the kitchen. And this is one instance where we really do not want to exchange time for money, because I really believe that time spent in the kitchen can be a wonderful thing, not only because you're nourishing your body, but you can create such fabulous experiences. I love it when my grandson comes to visit and we cook together. He's learning how to make real food, and then we get to eat it together, and it tastes so much better because we've invested time and love into the recipe.
Time and love, not convenience and pre-prepared. Invest in yourself. Invest in your kitchen. It's a makeover, probably. There was for me a makeover, but now I wouldn't go back to the old ways, the ways of convenience and packaged goods. But I am eager to share with you, whenever we can, the way my kitchen functions. We have many things that make whole foods happen easily. And as you said, if you invest affection, if you invest time and attention into nurturing others, nature, nurture, and wholeness, that the precious time that you have with your grandson, he will remember for a lifetime, I predict. It will be among his most fond memories.
Yes,
and
I hope so.
You can hold me accountable for that. My kids have grown up. They fledged. They're doing fine. But yes, I am convinced that in the first 5 years of life, we should be teaching healthy habits.
I also believe that we need to learn to remember to enjoy food again. We've been sold this myth that we just need to grab and go, dine and dash, whatever. No, dine and dash is a bad thing, but grab and go or wolf down our food. Like it's all about hurry, hurry, do all these things. And when we're in that elevated state of trying to just cram it in, we're not digesting, we're not nourishing our body. And we really want to take the time to make sure that we are slowing down, eat a wonderful, whole food, nutrient dense, delicious meal. Like, why did we stop valuing the time spent in nourishing our bodies? We really need to reclaim that.
Yes, to encourage and to say how we approach this. We start with digestive aid, which is 3 drops in anything wet and warm, could be a broth or a mineral water, at the beginning of a meal. And then I urge people to eat until you're half satisfied. And then pause for a moment or 2 or 3 to appreciate whoever you're with, virtually or physically. And then if you want more, fine. But in Japan, I've forgotten the exact pronunciation, but there's a word that means you're stressed, you're not hungry, close the refrigerator.
I love that. That's great. I think one of the other things that we also have to remember is food producers are in the business of making money. Food just happens to be the product by which they do it. And when they realize that there is a certain point past which we simply cannot eat at a meal. Like we can overeat if we're not paying attention, but there's only so much we can do that. And their response was to create this whole new category of food that 50 years ago was not huge, and that's the snack food category.
Absolutely.
We have become
it's called
of snackers.
I'm sorry, it's called the crave factor. I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with Quaker, working with General Foods. They consider themselves packaged goods companies. They don't consider themselves food companies. They don't actually produce food. Right. They produce processed commodities that are too rich in sodium and too poor in magnesium and potassium. to bereft of antioxidants and actually contain pro-oxidants. I worked with them for several years, and it turns out the cost of transitioning back to whole foods, like steel-cut oats made by Quaker. You can get them from the cans, Irish steel-cut oats, organic. Bill Smithberg, the chairman and CEO, finally had to pull the plug on the project because they would have had no profit for a year and a half. Then they would profit mightily, and they would get back into the whole foods business, not into the packaged goods business.
Yeah.
But the transition costs are enormous. What we do have is a convenience factor. This crave factor is built into anything crisp or extruded. And unfortunately, most of what ultra-processed foods are crisp or extruded, and they are meant to get you to eat more. So you take in more sodium, and then you want to drink more tonic, and then you drink more tonic, and you want to take in more packaged goods. They're owned by the same companies. Frito-Lay is owned by Coca-Cola, I believe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've forgotten who owns
Pepsi. Actually,
Pepsi. Hold on. There's Coke and Pepsi, but they own hundreds of brands that you would think are healthy, and they sneak high fructose corn syrup into them, and we end up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease due to this increase in corn sugar, high fructose sugar. In my young days, we only had alcoholic liver disease. We didn't have any NAFLD.
Yeah.
And now it's become almost epidemic.
The incidence among 20 to 35-year-olds has gone up tremendously. And at that age, your liver should be in fine fettle. It should not be struggling. And a lot of it is because of these ultra processed things. And the other thing that food producers do, because they're trying to sell their product, is they create hyper palatable versions of what they're doing. They scientifically study exactly what it takes to make that product addictive. And in a way, there's a little genius in the marketing campaign, for example, for those potato chips. Bet you can't eat just one. No, you can't, because they were designed to be addictive.
Exactly correct. And then microplastic gets into the chipped foods, and I would like to avoid microplastic.
Yeah.
But it's in ultra-processed food. It's in rice. It's getting into chicken, commercial chicken. It's no longer a hypothetical concern. It's such a big problem for which we have no current solution except to speed the transition to organic and biodynamic and permaculture agriculture. We need to fall back in love with nature, nurture, and wholeness.
I love that. And I also want to share that I am so happy when I see there is more and more consumer interest in people wanting real whole food choices. And in a lot of the research that I do as the Ingredient Guru, I have a newsletter and I share weekly about all the things that they do to food, etc. More and more companies are starting to pay attention to clean label issues and transparency, because consumers are starting to pay attention and realize that this is what they want. And it's not something that we have to, again, we don't spend 5 hours at the grocery store. We figure out where are we going to start. Is your meat source important to you? Then figure out where you're going to get pasture raised, clean, no hormones, no added antibiotics, no genetically modified feed, et cetera, et cetera. Like, figure out that one thing and don't worry about the rest of it until you've got that figured out, and then move on to the next thing. Because if you approach it one step at a time, you will get much further than if you try to do everything all at once.
Would you please tell us your newsletter's address?
The easiest way to get the newsletter is simply to go to the website, TheIngredientGuru.com, and then there's a sign-up box there, and my newsletter is called Food News You Can Use.
TheIngredientGuru.com. You will get the truth from MiraDessy. we try to provide also what is true about everything from coffee to tea, about salt to sugar, because me personally, and I hope you the same, I want to be dancing at 120 with my friends. I do.
Absolutely.
I listen to what I say. My brain listens to everything you say. If you speak optimistically, your brain hears that. If you speak pessimistically, your brain hears that. So I'm delighted that you're doing what you're doing and that you're showing people that one step at a time can yield tremendous benefits. And you don't have to, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
No. Yes, absolutely. This is a lifestyle, and this is something that not only are you doing for yourself, you're doing it for future generations. As I have shared in other places, I was not always the ingredient guru. And I will confess, my kids grew up eating boxed macaroni and cheese and Captain Crunch, and we lived a typical American life until things changed. I got sick, and in the process of learning how to support my body, things began to change for my kids and now my grandson. When he comes to visit, he knows that we're going to make macaroni and cheese if that's what he wants, and we're going to scramble an egg for breakfast. We're not going to have a box of cereal. There are things that we're going to do that are real whole food things, and he's watching, learning, and hopefully will grow up to do those same things himself.
On our drrusselljaffe.com website, we have recipes, we have blogs that speak to the same topic, but I urge people to join your newsletter and follow you, as I do, online.
Thank you.
Because you encapsulate succinctly something very important. For example, if you choose convenience, you will die early. If you choose life, it means being engaged. What you eat, drink, think, and do are each very important and under your control. Yes, there's more stress. Yes, attention spans are shorter. I remember the day when you would listen to a whole symphony on the television when there was only 2 or 3 channels on the whole operation. So I'm that old. But I'm functioning at a much younger level today than before. I lost 65 pounds and I don't plan to find it again. And it took a while after I had lost the weight for me to lose the hunger. Now, I like intermittent fasting for me at my level in life. I eat most of my calories midday. I may have a little bit of salad from the garden because we have a 12-year-old permaculture biodynamic food forest out in front of our house. Mostly so we can eat from it, but partly so I can show my neighbors that you could swap your lawn for some garden that will nourish you.
Yeah.
And it's a choice. Now, fortunately, I had a son who was interested in permaculture and had studied with Willie Smits and had studied with Regenerative Design Institute at Commonweal and so forth. So he came and he had a whole summer and he laid out a garden. And it was so subtle that I thought he was just playing. But by the next year, I could see that the water course, the way the water flowed through the garden to keep the spongy soil spongy, that it was brilliant. It is intensive the first year or so, but then the yield from the garden each year, from the fruit trees to the berries. Right now, we're getting plenty of beans and pickles and dill and parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme from the garden. So I am trying to be a living example, as you are a living example, so that we can inspire other people to take the same kinds of steps to save their lives.
And I'd love to add one thought to that as well. One of the things we tend to forget is that we need to nourish, not simply feed our bodies. And when we eat a lot of of processed foods, snack foods, non-nourishing choices, high sugar, high fats that are unhealthy for us, high sodium, our body can't process those as well. So we're always hungry because our body is seeking nourishment. But when we have deeply nourishing foods, rich, delicious, fresh, organic vegetables, or a pasture-raised chicken, or something like that, we're getting deeper nutrition. We actually don't need as much to satisfy that internal hunger.
Snacks around here are whole fruit and berries, seeds and nuts. And part of the makeover of my kitchen was to not bring any sugared food in, no candy bars. Because at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I happen to be up, I'm going to eat whatever is the least healthy thing in the house. I'm human.
Yeah.
But if the least healthy thing is a berry or a whole fruit or a seed and nut, maybe some seaweed, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I was once giving this talk, and one of the senior doctors in the front row said she would go out in the middle of the night 5 miles to get a Snickers. I said,
Whoa.
We should talk.
That's a little far.
Until you get involved, you think it's another world. And it is in a certain way another world because you fall back in love with nature. You use nature's pharmacy and nature's outgoing way to guide you. And you find that it becomes somewhat self-reinforcing. At this point, if I get outside the lane or the flow of my life, it's so uncomfortable that I stop, reassess, maybe delegate, but find my way back to peace, harmony, wholeness, and engagement. We need to move around. Why not move around in the kitchen while you're making food? Why not move around in the garden while you're harvesting beans or pickles or whatever? So I think it becomes more and more attracting and attractive the more you give it a try.
And I would love to share, I love what you're doing with your garden. And we have a small garden here, although this year it's taking quite a beating because of this Texas heat that we're having. But one of the things that I teach, in addition to teaching about ingredients and everything else, is the concept of having a preparedness pantry, having a pantry that provides what you need so that if there's some kind of a supply chain issue, or if you can't get out for some reason, whatever it is, you have what you need on hand. And having a garden is one of the best ways to add to your preparedness pantry, because you are growing things, you're eating them fresh in season. You don't have to go very far. Your food miles are itty bitty, and then you can pickle or process or dehydrate or use whatever. There is nothing like fresh herbs from the garden. And even if you only have a balcony, you can put out a pot with herbs. Like, that's a great way to start. So I love that you're doing that and encouraging people to add gardening to part of their wellness self-care protocol.
It turns out that gardening is one of the healthiest things you can do. It adds more years to life and life to years. I'm going to put a plug in for our book, How to Thrive in the 21st Century. This is our guide to help you speed the transition from symptom reactive care, which is what most people get in healthcare, to looking at promoting primary preventive health. It's a choice. And I have chosen to invest in my home so I don't have to invest in the hospital.
I love that. That is such a great phrase. And I think the other thing is, I'm listening to the birds that you have outside and everything. I love when I go outside in the mornings and I hear the birds. If I go out in the evenings, I hear crickets and frogs. And just playing in the dirt is such a satisfying, soothing activity. It's really wonderful.
Put your hands in the dirt. If the dirt is healthy, walk barefoot on the earth. And these are, you evoked many fond memories that I have of just doing that. And how much satisfaction. Just doing it, but doing it with someone else is even better. you have the joy of sharing.
Absolutely. We're having a little construction going on at the house, and the plumber came by yesterday. And before he went into the bathroom to fix what needed his attention, he was wandering around my garden looking at the vegetables and the herbs. And that was great. I love that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And you can have flowers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can have many different kinds of salads. A whole dinner made of a salad with seeds and nuts, and maybe some sea vegetables, and maybe some fungi, and maybe some other interesting fruits or nuts. I would love to have another time where we could talk, but from my kitchen.
Oh, that would be fun. I would be in my kitchen too then.
Yes, yeah. I think we should both be in our kitchens, explaining why our kitchens are set up the way they are, why it nourishes and nurtures us to be in the kitchen, and therefore it's not a burden, it's a joy.
Absolutely. That would be so much fun. And I think one of the other things that's so great about learning how to play in the kitchen is you really interact with your food on a much different level. A lot of people, when I'm working with clients in the beginning, they're more fixing their food. They're just throwing it together so they can get it on the plate. And I confess I do that sometimes too. Like sometimes at the end of the day, you're a little bit tired. It's okay, let's just put it here. We don't make it pretty. But I love, like I have a friend who's a chef, and one time when they came to visit, he's, wow, you really made your food look nice, because instead of doing a salad, throwing everything in the bowl, I put it on a platter. And then you can assemble it so it looks better, and you get the goodies and the greens without a pile of greens left over at the bottom, because everybody wants the goodies. Just making it look as delicious as possible and as colorful as possible helps our body as well, because visually we respond to beautiful food. So when you're going out in the garden to get it, or if you happen to go to a farmer's market, or you have a CSA that delivers to you, whatever it is, and you see the beautiful food, that begins that process of really connecting on a deeper level with what you're using to fuel and nourish your body.
For example, our tomatoes and cherry tomatoes come from 20 feet away, not 2,000 miles away.
Yes. And they taste a whole lot better. They don't taste like cardboard.
Yes, as the commercial process ripens the fruit en route to look ripe, but the last few days of ripening add much value to the nourishment. So I love cherry tomatoes or tomatoes from the garden, but I'm really horrified at what happens to a poor tomato en route.
Yeah. And it's so funny that we're talking about this, because I do have some tomatoes, and when I was in, my tomatoes are in the backyard, and here in Texas, I actually have to grow them in a semi-shady area.
Oh, sure.
But I was weeding in the front yard one day, and I saw something. I'm like, that looks like a tomato. And sure enough, it is. So I put a little cage around it.
Oh, good.
Obviously, somehow a seed made its way from the backyard to the front yard. Right. And we're growing a tomato in the front. I have a container garden by my front door, and I planted a couple of eggplant and some lavender in there. Look. They look beautiful just as they are. It doesn't have to, and I do have a lot of flowers as well. There's both, but tucking food in and among the flowers is a really wonderful thing to do.
Amen. Unfortunately, our time is about complete for today.
Sure.
I would urge all of our IG Live audience to look up The Ingredient Guru and TheIngredientGuru.com. Subscribe to her newsletter. And hopefully we will have the pleasure and privilege of talking from our kitchens about how to be healthier and healthier day by day.
That sounds lovely. Thank you, Dr. Jaffe, for inviting me to join you today.
A privilege.